All right, last time I left off right here. So, talking about how your Fitbits or so much technology you have now can actually look at what your sleep stages are that you run into, and it even gives you like suggestions. I know Fitbits do on like how much you should be getting of each and what's proper and this and that. It's kind of cool. There are some apps I know I used to have one on my phone called Smart Alarm, and on the Smart Alarm you could also record audio. And so if you're a sleep talker, it's kind of fun. Like mine, I'm not a sleep talker, but you could hear like the sheets rustle when I would like fidget and move around and not be comfortable, which would pick up as like, oh, you're not in deep sleep, you're not in REM because you're still moving around. Um, so it's kind of a cool thing. If you have it, check it out. Maybe now after we go over some of this stuff, it'll make more sense what that means. So this is an example of sleep cycles. Everyone's looks a little different. You don't always go to the same levels. So like right here you have this person. The first time, from what I've read, the first time you fall asleep, you do have to go through cycle like 1, 2, 3, and then eventually you'll get to REM, which on these ones, they always have REM listed way up high here. And that's just the way they envision it. So probably because it looks more like your brainwaves are awake, so they just stash it up there. And so this would be an example of how you kind of go throughout your night. When you wake up, depending on how long your wake is, you have to kind of start that descent back down. Either way, when you're awake, you can't jump right back into REM. You have to fall through some other stages. And if you're awake, I think it's like if you're awake longer than 5 minutes, you typically actually start over and start that fall. So REM sleep is the coolest of the stages because it only lasts for about 10 minutes at a time. So as you go through your stages at night, you typically accrue more. But it's not, you won't be in REM the full entirety of your night. It jumps around. So with this, we talked about how your brain waves look almost like stage 1 or like awake. So they look very similar to the beta and alpha waves. And the cool thing is you are in the deepest sleep where it's really hard to wake somebody up when they're in REM. You can do it, but it's going to be, this is like we were trying to wake someone up and saying their name isn't working that well. So you're like shaking them and saying their name. They're probably in REM sleep at that point or really deep sleep, but potentially REM. And while they look like they're just kind of dead and paralyzed, their heart rate rises. So that's why I said if you have a Fitbit or a smartwatch and you can link it to your heart rate while they're measuring your sleep stages, it'll be more accurate because during REM, your heart rate skyrockets, it increases, and your breathing does too. It becomes very rapid. So if you've ever seen somebody in REM sleep, their eyes are moving around, their chest is heaving up and down really, really quickly, like they're exerting a lot of energy. And then about every 30 seconds, their eyes like dart around a little bit and then move and then stop and then dart around again. And so, while all of this is happening and your brain is super activated and activating all your internal systems, this other cool thing happens where your brain kind of shuts off activity to the rest of your muscles, though. So the motor cortex is active. Like if we visioned your brain, the motor cortex is lighting up like all this movement is happening because, your internal organs are all moving and pumping and doing all this crazy stuff. But your brainstem blocks any messages from being sent to the rest of your body. And so you really don't have access to moving. So I always think of it like you're paralyzed from the neck down when you're in REM sleep. And that's because you want your body to stay relaxed, because during this stage, you have your most vivid story-like, movie-like dreams. So typically when you guys are remembering your dreams for the night, you're remembering what you had happen in REM sleep, because these are the ones that have a big story plot. There's usually a lot of detail and vividness to it. And so during these dreams, they're so vivid and real like that you have to be paralyzed from the neck down, like no movement, because they don't want, or our brain doesn't want us like acting out a dream and like running in bed or like punching things in our sleep, right? So we have to be just frozen. And so it's called paradoxical sleep because internally you're very like alert and aroused with your systems, like your heart's beating fast, your eyes are darting around, your chest is heaving up and down because you're breathing really fast and irregular, but then the rest of you is just like still, stiff as a board, nothing is happening, and you're not moving. So about 20 to 25% of our night is actually spent in REM-like sleep, in REM stage sleep. Now, I always have kids ask the question, so do you only dream in REM? No, you dream in other levels of sleep, but they're not going to be like really good storyline dreams. So in the other stages, it might be like, think of like a PowerPoint slide. Like it just comes up and there's a picture. And that's your dream. It's a picture of something. Or it's like a little snippet. Versus REM dreams, they are like you're in a movie, right? It seems so real to you. And those are the dreams that we usually think about. The ones where we're like being in it. The cool thing with dreams, though, is we could talk about it a lot. We just don't have time in this unit. You know, people dream different. So some of us might dream like we do in life. Like when we're walking, we see behind our own two eyes. And in our dreams, we're in our own bodies, like seeing out of our eyes. Sometimes we dream, or other people always dream, like their eyes in the sky and they're looking at themselves. Some people's dreams include smells and tastes. Some people dream in color, some dream in black and white. Like, there's so much variation. And the other question that usually gets brought up when we talk about dreams is people saying, well, what about somebody who's blind? Well, if somebody's been blind their entire life, they probably don't process or see colors, because how would they know what, purple is if they've never seen purple? So a lot of the time they will just dream in their other senses. So touch, taste, sound, smell, that's stuff that they're going to dream. It's not going to be actual vision. Excuse me. So, if we were to wake somebody up during REM cycle and say, what were you just dreaming about? They could probably give you the whole layout of a dream. The problem is when we look at these stages, if I am in REM sleep and then I wake up an hour later, let's pretend this REM's not there. I'm REM sleeping and then an hour later I wake up, or half an hour later I wake up. I'm a half an hour away from my REM cycle where my dreams were, and I might not remember it, right? A lot of the time, that's why we don't remember dreams. Every time we sleep, though, we do have dreams. We just often don't log them or remember them because it's so distant from when we woke up. So, question is, do we need sleep? And yes. There was some experiment that another psych teacher told me about when I got my AP training. She was saying how they did this experiment where they took puppies and everything was healthy about the puppy. They just refused to let them sleep. Every time they tried to, they'd like wake them up and make them play or make them be active. Like the puppies died because everything else, they had food, they had water, they had all the stuff, a healthy environment, but they weren't allowed to sleep. And yeah, we need sleep to function. We need sleep to live. Now, for people, I think the longest period of going without sleep is like multiple days. And then they wanted to know, like, they kept this person active the whole time. And then they wanted to see, like, okay, so is he going to have to sleep for like multiple days to catch up for, I think he was like awake for like 6 days or something. And they wanted to see how much sleep he'd need. Like, is he going to have to sleep for 2 days straight to make up for it? No, he slept for like 14 hours and then woke up and then he was fine. That's because we have a sleep bank. If we were to say every hour of sleep you don't get that you need, you have to like make it up later in life, we'd be done dealing. It would not work for us. Like you guys need 9 hours of sleep every single day, and we know you're not getting that. So imagine if you just kept accruing like, oh, I was 3 hours short today, 4 hours short yesterday. It would just be insane. Your sleep debt would be too high. So what happens is our brain kind of like swaps the record every 2 weeks. So it's always kind of like, oh, forget about that last day 2 weeks ago. We're starting over on this day, and it just keeps a running total. So, in a 2 week period, if you've just been short on sleep, yeah, you're going to feel really tired and really grouchy and your brain's not going to work that well. But it's not like, okay, and then I added 2 more weeks of not getting much sleep. Now I have 4 weeks. Now your brain just is like on a 2 week schedule to keep you from getting in too much of a sleep debt. But I would pause the video here if I were you, and I would count how many of these that you would say yes to. So pause. Okay, however many that you said yes to, we would say that the more you said yes to, the more sleep deprived you probably are. Like even one of these, they would be like, probably not great if you even said yes to one. It means you're light on sleep, which I have a lot of kids that are like, I said yes to almost all of them. Most of us are pretty sleep deprived. We try to pack too much in to a certain time frame, and it's just not good for us. So lack of sleep can cause decreased memory. We talked about it can shrink the stress can shrink the hippocampus. Lack of sleep means lack of REM, and REM is when consolidation happens in that hippocampus. decreased concentration. It makes you grumpy and in a bad mood. It can actually make you gain weight too. Sleep deprivation increases our production of hunger-arousing hormones, and it lowers the hormones that suppress hunger. So yeah, you eat more when you're overtired. Sickness. So if you don't get enough sleep, your immune system tanks. So right now, with everything going on in the world, this is your time to sleep if you have the ability to. Sleep, sleep, sleep. There's a lot of sickness going around, and this can help kind of boost your immune system. And then car accidents or other kind of accidents. When people aren't getting enough sleep, they're not paying attention. And so when we look at, things like 3 Mile Island or the Exxon Valdez oil spills, or just all these horrific accidents, like when we look at Chernobyl and things like this, all these accidents happen when people were supposed to be sleeping, but they were trying to trick their circadian rhythm, saying, no, I can stay up till the wee hours in the morning and it'll be fine. Yeah, well, they hadn't gotten enough sleep. Their circadian rhythms were still saying, no, I'm supposed to be asleep right now. And they just, they weren't paying attention to those little details that were needed, and it led to these disasters. So sleep is something we need, and it's really hard to fight that nature. All right, this is my cheesy quote that I got from one of our textbooks. Corduroy pillows make headlines. If you don't get it, go look up corduroy fabric and imagine if you slept on a corduroy fabric pillow. Okay, so why the heck do we sleep? One, we think that sleep protects. It's an evolutionary thing. Cavemen slept at night because if they went out in the evening, their eyes are not equipped to deal with seeing. They're not nocturnal creatures. We're not. And we would have gotten eaten by much larger creatures or walked off a cliff or who knows what kind of trouble we would have gotten into. So evolutionary speaking, we sleep at night because it protects us from all the dangers of the evening. Sleep also can help us recuperate. It's the time where our little construction workers come out in our brain and it patches up everything and our memories consolidate, and it's that plasticity kind of at work where things are being fixed that were kind of screwy for the day. Make memories, consolidation. We talked about REM cycle is when your hippocampus gets to consolidate those memories and organize them, or your little SpongeBob secretaries come out and file everything away very nicely. Sleeping could help with creativity. So if you've ever heard like people trying to make a decision or can't figure out how to solve a problem or what direction they want to go on a project, they maybe sleep on it and they wake up and they're like, oh, I have an idea. Maybe it's because you dreamed about it. It can inspire you. And then we have growing. Your pituitary gland releases hormones for growth only during sleep, so you actually do need to sleep to grow. That's when you grow. So the idea that you can grow an inch overnight, some kids actually do grow a substantial amount, where it's a viewable amount overnight because of these releases when they go through like growth spurts and stuff. We can get through some sleep disorders here. Sleep disorders, insomnia. This is the ability or the lack of ability to fall asleep or stay asleep. Problem is with this, people just want to self-diagnose and self-treat. So people say, oh, I have trouble sleeping, so I'm going to just give myself some sleeping pills or alcohol. That'll make me pass out. If you take sleeping pills or alcohol, you might pass out, but you're not going to get deep level sleep or REM sleep. So you're still going to feel really tired. And a lot of people, when they self-diagnose, they think, oh, I didn't sleep at all last night. Well, when you use things like a Fitbit, you might say, like, I didn't get any sleep. But your Fitbit says, you got 4.5 hours or 5 hours last night. Some people with insomnia, like in a week, they might get 10 hours tops. So we most of us, if we're not formally diagnosed, we get more sleep than we think. Narcolepsy. So we will just watch this video if it'll pull up for me here, because this is what narcolepsy looks like in a puppy. So it's all about when you get overexcited. When something excites you, you pass out. So he's doing real well, and then he's just out. If you're a dog, yeah, it's a rough life. Everything excites you, so, it doesn't work out in your favor most of the time. So uncontrollable sleep attacks, you don't need to know the causes of it. Usually lasts less than 5 minutes, and you can jump right into REM sleep from it. Most of the time people, when they talk about it, they can feel it coming on, and they feel like, oh, I'm getting really tired and I just need to go lay down. They can feel an attack coming on. It's not like in the movies when they just like drop. Some people can, but a lot of times they can feel it coming. Sleep apnea, people who are typically overweight, but anyone can have it. They stop breathing while they sleep for up to a minute, and then they have to wake themselves up by like gasping for air, which they're not consciously aware they're waking up, but they do it enough that they have to go back to level 1 of sleep and work their way down. So we'll pick up on part 3 here with sleep apnea, finishing it up, since about 5 seconds left on this video, so join me for part 3.